Good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, depending upon where you are in the world. Welcome back to day 2 of the 2021 World Health, Fitness and Wellness Week. We're live from Singapore and we hope you enjoyed a great first day. We're looking forward to another day of jam-packed discussion and interviews with some of the brightest minds from across the health, fitness and wellness world. All of you on Hubbelow, please make sure you say hello to each other in the chat box. Drop in your LinkedIn URL. Take part in the polls, visit the virtual exhibition and jump into the lounges for some extra networking. The sessions are underway and our first special guest here in Singapore is Aaron Boey. Aaron is Group CEO of Yu Yang Sang, one of the foremost TCM companies and portfolio companies across Asia. Aaron looks after all of the activities from retail to e-commerce to clinics and the whole works. He has been a cornerstone of Singapore's retail and also tourism market, working with Singapore Tourism Board on multiple ventures to ensure that Singapore is a hub for well-being, and in the future that's Singapore's primary goal. Aaron, good morning. How are you doing?
Doing well, thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us. We've got some great questions to go through, ladies and gentlemen. Aaron, you've been a business leader, a business manager now for several decades. I don't want to give away your age. But over the course of the last 12 months, no doubt these have been some trying and difficult times. How have they tested your leadership skills and what have you leaned on to get through this pandemic?
Yeah, so indeed, I think all business leaders have been challenged over the last 12 plus months, so we're not spared. What we try and do in Yu Yang Sang is really to focus primarily on the things that we can control and not to worry too much about the things that are outside our control. So we're going through a storm and we can wish that the storm goes away, that the storm ends. And that's part of it, I guess. But we can also focus on keeping ourselves calm through the storm, so that so that we optimize whatever it is that we can do, and which is within our control. In fact, that same approach is the approach that TCM also espouses to a large extent, right? So the sense of being empowered, firstly, and then exercising self-discipline with whatever we're doing. So we were on transformation initiatives prior to the pandemic. We've continued that. We were on initiatives to grow our omni-channel reach to consumers. We've continued with that. We were on initiatives to rebuild our brand, to reposition our brand, and to make TCM less traditional and more modern, and we've continued with those initiatives. So essentially it's understanding that the operating conditions have made life a lot more challenging. It certainly made managing the financial aspects of the business a lot more challenging. But having said that, within that context, I think by and large the teams still remain very focused and very disciplined.
Now, crisis, written in Chinese, is made up of 2 characters, and for those that don't know, those characters are danger and opportunity. Very interesting to strike a balance between those, risk and reward, essentially going through a pandemic. As Group CEO, how do you weigh that up, Aaron, in your head? How do you weigh up risk and opportunity in such a marketplace? You obviously have to look at growth, but you obviously have to assess risk. How do you balance that in today's market?
Yeah, so once again, it speaks to a core philosophy in TCM, right, which is all about maintaining balance. And if the balance is lost or is not optimal, then a lot of undesirable things occur. So we try and build scenarios about how things will unfold. We make assumptions. Inevitably, I think the assumptions that have been made over the last 12 months have been shown to be perhaps a tad too optimistic in expecting perhaps a resumption of some form of normalcy in the markets, and therefore we've had to adjust these assumptions. But in those assumptions, or through those assumptions, we've been able to at least to try to strike a balance between taking the risks that are still worth taking and which in fact need to be taken in order to set us up for sustainable, profitable growth in the future, much longer term. The company's been around 142 years. So we've been through our fair share of difficult, challenging times and even major global disruptions, right? So it's not as if this is the first time the management and the company itself as a culture is dealing with these sort of things. So it's just about coming together as a team and figuring these things out, and as a team ensuring that people understand what the trade-offs are, and the trade-offs may not favor every part of the company or layer risk on every part of the company equally. And people who take on a little bit more risk have to understand that they're doing so in order to try and help another part of the business, for instance, be able to at least make headway through these times.
Now, 140-year company history, TCM itself has deep heritage. It has roots over hundreds of years, if not thousands of years, Aaron. Why do you think TCM as a sector has become so mainstream over the last perhaps 3 to 5 years? It really has gone from being an incredibly known, popular sector, but it's become commercially mainstream. Any reasons behind that, do you think?
I'd like to think, at least in our small way, that we have contributed to that. Yu and Sang has done our part. But besides that, I think we're seeing some major global trends today. There's a trend towards more natural health and wellness solutions. Moving away from synthetic, from chemicals based. I think there is an overall trend towards health and wellness anyway, right? Of which this wonderful summit is a part of, or is a reflection of. I think it's also more and more the realization that what is today labeled TCM, which is around 3,500 years of combined wisdom and knowledge, understanding and capability, TCM is in many ways being experienced in a way which is no longer key. It is more, so it's less traditional and it's more modern. In a sense, this sense of Chinese, yes, it was born out of Chinese culture, Chinese know-how and understanding, but I think its applications today are global. Yeah. In fact, even in Singapore, where we run the largest chain of TCM clinics, we are seeing more and more non-Chinese take advantage of the services that we're offering, especially in the area of, let's say, pain management. Acupuncture, for instance, is today, I think, more universal than perhaps we fully realize. And that is only a small part of what the entire suite of services is that we offer. So I think, Chinese, it's Chinese in origin, but no longer Chinese in relevance. It is no longer traditional, it is modern. And in fact, it is not just about medicine, which I think in most people's minds could be interpreted as therapeutic, but it is really about daily health and wellness, which is the effort that we are making as Yu and Sang to bring TCM from this relatively complementary alternative space more into mainstream daily health and wellness moments.
Now, your customer mix is very broad. You've got clinical customers, you've got retail customers coming into your bricks and mortar, you've got e-commerce customers. Over the past, maybe say, year and a half throughout this pandemic, Aaron, you've obviously maybe noticed some differences in customer buying behavior, customer demand, customer expectations. What are you seeing or what are you concluding from customer behavior in the past 12 months, and how is that perhaps shaping where you believe Yu and Sang should be in the future?
So there are things that we saw even prior to the pandemic, which we continue to see through the pandemic. Okay. So these are major trends that I think are going through some measure of disruption today, but perhaps we will remain intact for the longer term. and I mentioned that earlier already, the move towards looking for natural health and wellness solutions, the move towards more modern dosage forms, and many of our products today are available in these modern dosage forms. And also more relevant and more usable through different usage occasions. So not necessarily just for home usage, but it could be for office usage, it could be for usage on the go and stuff like that. So the product formats need to be able to support these different usage occasions. Having said that, I think clearly and this is intuitive, right? The people looking for immunity solutions, for instance, are now very popular. Immunity solutions are something that everyone pays attention to. But at the same point in time, all the safety measures and personal health measures that we've started through COVID, the wearing of masks, for instance, the washing of hands and stuff like that, has also resulted in a drop in common coughs and colds, right? So upper respiratory tract infections has certainly dropped. That is something that we have great solutions for as well among our OTC products. So we've seen a decline in those sales, but then other areas have picked up. And we believe that some of these things, when life gets back to a form of normalcy, all these will still remain relevant. But certainly we think that the awareness of building personal immunity and fortifying your body, keeping your body in balance, for instance, I think that will continue for some time.
Let's look at e-commerce, because of course everyone is now buying more online than they ever did before. Aaron, you've been in the e-commerce space for a number of years. What are your thoughts on how that marketplace will develop, and how are you investing more in that to try and capture any upside that's there?
Yeah. So when people think e-commerce, they often describe it as direct to consumer, right? DTC. In fact, we've been in the DTC mode for a long time already, because technically all our brick and mortar retail stores are direct to consumer, even though we maintain a healthy and growing presence in wholesale distribution through third party or channel intermediaries in that sense. Our pivot to e-commerce started several years ago already, but that's in the context of omni-channel retail. So essentially, what we aspire to be is a brand that is accessible to our consumers and our customers, regardless of how they choose to shop, whether it's online, offline, through brick and mortar retail, mono-branded retail, or multi-branded retail, doesn't matter. And at the end of the day, the value for us is created through the value of the trustworthiness, the safety, the quality of the brand, as well as the product solutions and the services solutions that we offer. But we've found that through the COVID disruption, we've found that where accessibility has been impeded in some cases and for some period of time, for instance, then certainly e-commerce, whether or not it's from our own mono-branded store, yuansang.com, or through online marketplaces, has become more and more important for us to ensure that our customers have accessibility to our products. And we found that that's where I think the maturity and the ability of the ecosystem to support us is important, because it's an end-to-end value chain, of which we do not control the full value chain. And we can certainly sell, for instance, but if the ability to fulfill and that last mile fulfillment isn't quite in place, then it impedes our ability to provide that great branded experience to our customers. So it differs from market to market. Singapore certainly is a lot better set up than, let's say, Malaysia. But I think they're making great strides, and over the last 12 months, they've done a lot to catch up. So I think the entire market itself understands this opportunity.
Now, you're very well placed in the wider ecosystem. You're connected to many parts of this ecosystem. Where are you choosing to invest in the future for growth? Is it going to be in product, perhaps in geography, in platform, experience? Where do you think the future lies for your investment plans, Aaron?
Yeah. So our longer term strategic focus will be on creating value, really through more innovative product, and product that is targeted at, as I mentioned earlier, not only those very specific special occasions when one needs the more tried and tested Chinese proprietary medicine formulations, for instance, of which there still continues to be a lot of those needs. But beyond that, it's getting into daily health and wellness moments through innovative product that could either be seen as supplements to daily vitality or in functional foods, for instance. So that entire breadth is something that we've been participating in for many years, and that is being strengthened, I would say, through product innovation, through dosage form innovation as well, and also through consumer segmentation, targeting not just consumers that are slightly more mature, but also much younger consumers who are looking to support perhaps a different lifestyle. So product certainly is one, brand is another. So certainly the experience of our brand becoming once again more mainstream and really getting into those daily health and wellness moments where our consumers start to see how the relevance of Yuen Sang products and services could be greater on a daily basis and across the various different situations that they could encounter. For us, channel is really quite a hygiene factor, as I said. It's really about being accessible and available whenever and wherever our customers choose to shop.
Let's look at brand. I think what we've noticed in the past few years is community values have really driven success in many brands. How are you building brand loyalty? How are you building brand affinity across your customer base, Aaron? How are you trying to connect them as part of a community, for example? What are your thoughts on brand and how you're building that?
Yeah. So firstly, it's leveraging the strengths that we've had for 140 years plus, right? And that is continuing our assurance of quality, safety, and overall trustworthiness. So that's really important for us. And that's reflected through the values of who we are as a company as well, not just internally, but facing outwards towards our customers, towards our consumers. Beyond that, I would say it is really starting to reflect a more modern approach and a more progressive approach towards building a relationship with our customers and our consumers, or our patients for that matter, through our clinic services. And that is really starting with better understanding their lifestyles, but better understanding their needs, mapping the customer journey. So today, for instance, the customer doesn't just interact with the brand. For instance, if they're buying products in our stores, that interaction with us as a brand doesn't just start and stop when they enter and when they exit the store. It starts way before that and way beyond that, right? And it goes full circle very often as well. So the various things that we've already had in place and which we've used for a number of years to good effect, for instance. So we've got strong loyalty programs in all our core markets. These loyalty programs help us to better understand our customers' needs, but also help us to remain in contact with them and develop a relationship over time. And then over time, I think one of the better ways for us to not only to empower our current users better, but to empower new users who are looking for more information about not just Yuen Sang's products and services, but the entire category of TCM is really through content. And we are in the process of putting out a lot more authoritative, accurate, reliable, and relevant content in the English language, so that it's got much broader application and appeal. And we really believe that in the longer term, when people are empowered through knowledge and through understanding, then they can act on that themselves. They feel the confidence to be able to make those decisions on their own, which I feel today perhaps is something that hasn't been as well built up.
I think we've noticed the same across the fitness and wellness market, where there are new solutions coming out and they're very well marketed, but the science and the education behind them perhaps hasn't been reinforced as a primary message. And so I think they've got great potential, but until the education piece is done into the consumer, I think a lot of consumers are a little bit not wary or cautious perhaps of understanding the real benefits to this. So very interesting to see how that will come around. Let's look at the future of bricks and mortar, Aaron, because I think it's obviously taking a beating just now in the marketplace. The future is bright for bricks and mortar. The bricks and mortar businesses are not dead. Retail bricks and mortar will survive. What challenges do you think, not just yourselves, but other operators have in the bricks and mortar space in just overcoming this disruptive period with COVID and getting back to a point where there is traffic flow back into malls, there is people coming back into shops? What do you think are some of the short-term challenges we all have to overcome?
Yeah, so I think the challenges and the disruptions to brick and mortar occurred even before COVID once again. I think everyone was talking about how, online and e-commerce was just going to decimate brick and mortar, right? But the reality, I think, as far as we've seen, is that the consumer now, seeks experiences, compelling experiences across all these different touch points, right? And our challenge is to give consumers a reason, not just to buy from us online, but to also come and visit our stores and buy from us in our stores or in any other channel in which we're distributed. And that's really key for us, right? How do you provide those unique branded experiences across the different channels? So as an example, our team in Singapore does a great job of what I would consider to be a high-touch service model in our brick and mortar stores, where when a customer comes in, it's not just about a transaction. It's also about education. It's also about introducing new products through an understanding of the consumers. And therefore, now how do we bring that same experience online and give our customers this really holistic sense that every time they come into contact with a brand, for instance, they're going to get this great, experience, but it plays out slightly differently depending on where that interaction happens.
Good. One last comment, Aaron. How are you looking after your own personal well-being and health through this time? There's obviously restrictions and you perhaps can't do all the activities that you want to do, but how are you keeping yourself motivated, inspired, healthy and well?
Yeah, I apply, all the principles of TCM that that we espouse, right? So I think it's this holistic sense of not just physical well-being, but mental, spiritual, emotional well-being as well. But since this is a fitness platform, I would have to say, no, I think I don't think I'm unique in the sense that I spend perhaps as much time, if not more now, being mindful of just physical fitness. But physical fitness in itself is not necessarily equal to health.
Yes.
Right? It's far more than that. But certainly doing a lot more running these days than I used to, and I've rediscovered my love for that. But also spending time, connecting with people and ensuring that those personal relationships are not lost or not neglected during times like this. And then on a spiritual level, I mean, making time for my faith, making time for God.
Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there's some great takeaways there. Aaron, thank you very much for a great conversation. For those that don't know Yu Yang Sang, please do look them up. Please go in for one of their sessions at the clinics, and they've got an amazing range of products to help health and well-being. So we'll close this session off, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back in 1 minute. But Aaron, thank you very much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thank you.